Hi, and welcome to this edition of Business Supes, where we talk to successful business owners, learn a little bit about them, their business, and their business superpower. I am joined today by Ty Thompson from Cars on the Move. Ty, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, Eric, good to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Very, very welcome. Why don't we start off here? Just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your business. What's your origin story?
Great. My name's Ty Thompson. I'm in Joplin, Missouri, born and raised here, 53 years old. I got into car hauling. I don't know if you know anything about car hauling, but started out with a little 1-ton pickup truck and a little 3-car trailer. And 7 years, well, slow down. Started with a 1-ton and a 3-car trailer. My first year, I know I lost 15 grand for sure. Seventh year in the business, I own 20 semis, brand new, that haul 9 cars at a time. So I can move 180 cars with one whack. Been in it for 24 years total. I got rid of all my trucks, sold the business probably about 5-10 years ago. And since then, I've been consulting and helping auctions, dealers, and car haulers.
Very cool. Wow. So building a business from a point where you lost money in the first year to a point where you could sell it is quite a journey. So what would you say were the steps that you had to take to help you get to that point that you could build something that somebody else wanted to buy?
Well, that's a good question because so now from a consulting, how do you build a business? How do you start a business? How do you keep it and make it grow? So some of the things that I always like to say is build it to leave it. And any business that you're in, build it to leave it. So in car hauling is kind of a unique industry. It's trade, it's skill, it's labor intensive in driving, of course. So all those things I was never really that great at. I enjoyed them, but what I was really good at was sales and people. So getting into any business, I would assume it's the same thing. You need to be prepared for the long game. So one of the things that I encourage people today, they might call and I want to be a car hauler. I want to start a car hauling business. So there's two things I always ask. Number one, I don't need to know the answer, but you do. Can you live 12 months without a check starting right now? So back to your original question, how did you do that? Well, I must have read a couple of books along the way and decided you need to have money to make money. So starting out that first year, I was a long game guy. Always have been a long game guy. What are you doing and how long is it going to take? Well, as you know, if you read any book about business, what's the success rate? What's the fail rate, right? Yeah. If you can last 5 years in a business, you did something great. If you start out, we all know that to be true. Well, car hauling, I have statistics that can prove when you start out, I want to be a car hauler, the current industry life expectancy of a car hauler guy is 1.72 years, and he's out of business. So it's a huge fail rate. So going into this today, we have technology. So what do I talk a lot about? I talk a lot about car dealers, car auctions, and car haulers. And also repos. We got to talk about repos. That's part of the equation as well. So what's happened over time is technology has come in and said, you don't need to go get your own client base. We have a load board. You can just get on the load board and you can pick up a car and you can take it and drop it off and make money. Well, that's doable, but that's not building a business because you don't have a client base, you don't have a lane, you don't have relationships. And in car hauling, if you go, number one is love the dealer. Hardest guy in the world to love, right? We all know that. We all have had our experience with the car dealer, whether that's a good experience or a bad experience. As a vendor, car hauling, that is my customer. So first question I ask everybody is, can you live 12 months without a check starting right now? I don't need to know the answer, but you do. And it's very important because this is a very cash intensive business. Fuel's not cheap. Insurance isn't cheap. Equipment's not cheap. A new 9-car hauler today is $425,000. Wow. For one. So
yeah, that's a bit of an upfront investment there.
Yeah. So number one, can you live 12 months without a check? Number two, who's your customer? Those are the two simple questions. Let's keep it simple, right? We've all heard KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So those are two important questions that you would be shocked how many grown adult males call me that don't know those questions and aren't prepared for that, but want to start a business. So there's different ways, different means that we can get into this business to help us understand what we're trying to do here. So that, I don't know if I answered your question, but that's kind of,
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. So so hearing all that, and obviously, several years ago the investment wasn't quite as much, but you still, had to start this business with that mindset of I'm not going to make any money for a little bit. What was it about car hauling that appealed to you?
it's funny because so before car hauling, I owned a tow truck company. And I would take
Okay.
cars to the service drive at a dealership. So go to the, you drive, let's say you drive a Honda and your Honda's not running right, and you need the tow truck to pick it up and take it to the Honda
Hmm.
dealership. So I pick it up, take it to the Honda dealership. Well, as I'm there hanging out, you get to know the service writers, the service managers. And also you get to start, if you're paying attention, so in car hauling, you pay attention to everything, especially at a dealership. How many cars for sale on the lot? How many cars are in the back? What are those cars back there doing? You know,
Hmm.
so you'll be standing there talking to the service guy, and you see this guy pull up with a 1 ton and a 3 car trailer, and his name's Bob. Bob looks really angry, and nobody likes Bob, and Bob doesn't like anybody. I'm like, what's that guy doing? Oh, he's dropping off cars that we bought at the auction. Bought at the what? So you just start asking, what's an auction? What's
Right.
Bob doing? How does this work? So anyway, I got into this because I saw there was a real opportunity, meaning I could become, it took me forever to figure this out. So as I'm telling you this isn't, I didn't figure it out like that. It took probably 10 years to figure out. I wanted to become the UPS of car hauling, overnight delivery, next day
Okay.
service. So what happened inadvertently, you're in Tulsa, I'm in Joplin. Did you know in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there are 3 auto auctions that are dealer exclusive only?
No, I did not.
Yeah. So there's Tulsa. Well, from Joplin to Tulsa is less than 100 miles. If you go to Springdale, Arkansas, there's another auction there called 71B. If you go to Springfield, Missouri, there's another auction. So I'm in Joplin. I can get, then you go to Kansas City. I can hit
Hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4 auction auction facilities
Hmm.
within 150, less than 200-mile radius. So what you start to do is you start to pay attention to what we call wholesale. So wholesale guys will buy cars at an auction, take them to another auction, sell them, and hopefully turn a profit.
Okay.
Once you start following the flow of wholesale, then you start looking at the dealers. Where do they go? Well, dealers will usually typically hit 1 to 3 auctions every week, every month, every year. Same ones. Creatures of habit, right?
Right.
Well, what's the problem? Well, I bought all the cars and I need them home now because I got to get them. So there's this thing called interest. You've heard of a floor plan, a revolving line of
Hmm.
credit. So dealers
Right.
have a floor plan. And in that floor plan, today's average nationwide for one car for one day is $55.
Okay.
So when you're driving down the street and you see a dealership and you see 100 cars on there, $55 a day for each one of the average. I mean, and interest rates have gone up, as we know, current
Hmm.
economics. So it can be more. So these guys
Right.
need not only want their cars, they really need their cars, the dealer, so they can what? They got to run them through the shop. We got to change the oil. We got to check the brakes. We got to put whatever we got to do to it, we got to get it done. We need to hurry. This is called reconditioning, recon. So they're counting on a guy like me to hurry up and get their cars. Well, if you got a guy like Bob who doesn't care, doesn't answer his phone, doesn't care when he
Hmm.
gets there, people don't like Bob. Well, I could see that. I didn't know what was actually going on at the time, but I could see nobody liked Bob. Well, Bob wasn't a sales guy. Bob's a truck driver. So there's a big
Right.
difference between being a sales guy and being a truck driver. And that's what you'll see too in car hauling. A lot of guys get focused on one particular part. Well, the
Mm.
unfortunate thing is nothing gets done until somebody sells something. So I'm selling a service. I'm a vendor to a car dealer. And anyway, that was what I saw the opportunity was that car dealers have a need and I could be the guy to fill that need. And once I got to the place where you bought it today, you have it tomorrow, then you can start messing with rates. So it took me a
Okay.
whole year to figure out. I didn't know anything about trucking. I didn't know anything about dollar per mile. I didn't know what this, what was it called? It's called short mile, long dollar. Short mile, long dollar. In trucking, this is true, especially in car hauling. The shorter miles you go, the more money you make. So I can go
Okay.
to Springfield, Missouri and charge $100 to pick up a car and bring it back. That's really good dollar per mile in car hauling, especially if you
Okay.
put 9 cars on at a time, right?
Right.
So what you learn is okay, so here's an auction. What's inside an auction? Well, my favorite thing inside the auction is the auction sales rep. The auction sales rep has two primary functions. What those two primary functions are is go get cars and get them to the auction, go get guys, buyers, and get them to the auction. So the auction sales rep knows every car dealer, every wholesaler, everybody. So you make friends with the auction sales rep. Got it? And there's another
Makes
department
sense.
in there called commercial accounts. Commercial accounts, their job is to make sure that the lender, so who's the lender? Bank of America, Citi, Chase, Element, Santander, there's tons. So
Right.
lenders need somebody to pick up their repos, get them to the auction, recon them, and sell them. So here's where you slide into repo world, right? And
Okay.
especially today, repos is a huge hot topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So you find out what the wholesalers are doing, you find out what the buyers, the dealers are doing, and then you find out, oh, there's this other thing called repos. Well, repos aren't always in the same city as the auction. So what you do is you make a relationship with the person at the auction who's in charge of these repos, getting them picked up and bringing them in. So now what's happening, here's where I'm going with this. What's happening now is you're picking cars up from where you are, you're taking them to the auction, you're dropping them off, and then you're picking cars up at the auction and taking them to the dealer. So you're going both ways loaded. Not all the time, but a lot of times if you play it right. So
Right.
that's kind of the direction I like to go with all this, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you might as well get paid both ways. You owned a tow truck company before the car hauling business. Did you sell that, or did it just morph into the car hauling?
No, I had an opportunity to sell it and did well on that. And that was, of course, what helped me get into the transport business.
Okay.
Now,
Very
before
nice.
that, what's even more funny is before that, going to college, I got my Series 6 and 63 life and health. And I was in a hospital selling 403Bs to hospital employees, nurses, doctors, all those people. So sales is where I really come from. So how did you get into tow trucks? Well, my buddy, his dad bought it. And he's like, hey, and I love it. There's a local tow truck company, been here forever, still here today, the name. And he said, hey, you want to go for a ride? I said, yeah, sign me up. So we get in. I'm not watching anything except this show you how old I am. Everywhere we went, he's got $25 cash. So every tow, 20 cash. I'm just looking at it. I'm like, what in
Right.
this is nuts. Look at all this
Yeah.
cash. So then you go into Rex and stuff like that. But anyway, I took it, kind of built it up just a little bit, had a guy who wanted it, sold it, got into the transport. That's the background there.
Very cool.
Build it to sell it, build it to leave it. You either give it to your kids or
Yep.
sell it.
Yep. That is such an important thing, because I think so often people start a business and they don't really think about what's it look like when I leave. I think the other thing they do is they tie their identity to it. And then when
Yeah.
they do sell it or when they leave it, then they're lost. So I
Yeah.
love the fact that you begin with the end in mind. That's just such an important part of owning a business, and operating one the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to be able to do something with it, you know. And you're starting to see today like branding, right? If you're on social media, you might see a face. And I kind of wrestle with that. So how does like a consultant or something like that, what are you building and how do you leave it? And going through that process, it's very similar. So one of the things that I like to do is try to find people that are smarter than me. It doesn't matter what area, right? They need to be smarter than I am. And I know where I'm not smart, and I know where I'm really lazy, or I know where I'm really great. So the more you know about yourself and your temperament and your personality, the better you are to find people that are stronger in certain parts of the business that maybe you're not.
One of the things I talk to my clients about a lot is who, not how. So if you got something you've been avoiding, something you don't like, instead of trying to figure out how to do it, figure out who can you get to do it for you. And of course, you're going to have to trade time for money or money for time there. So you just got to figure out, which one's more important to you and does it fit the budget?
Well, exactly. And that, you touch on a really good point, because here, am I an accountant? No. Do I need to own a business? Do I need to know about accounting? Yes. So what do I find in accounting that I really need to be a part of daily? weekly, monthly, annually.
Right.
So I can talk a lot about accounting. I can talk about the benefits of getting ahead of the accounting, where we decide, okay, what do we need to buy equipment? Do we need to sell equipment? What do we
Right.
depreciation? We can talk about those things, but am I the expert? No. So I'd rather pay somebody who likes to deal with accounting, IRS
Hmm.
tax code, or whatever you want to call it, because that just does nothing but infuriate me and make me angry. I don't want to deal with it. I don't like taxes. I don't, none of it.
Right.
So
Yeah. Well, and
that's
it,
kind of the simple idea. And I know you understand what I'm saying.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's so interesting that you bring up accounting because so many business owners I meet don't know their numbers.
Yeah.
They don't have a budget, they don't have a forecast. They trust somebody else. Hopefully they're paying somebody else at least to do their P&Ls so they can look at that, but they don't understand exactly what that number looks like. And very often they're waiting to the end of the year to find out if they made any money or not. And it's really, really scary and something that business owners have got to change.
So one of the things, and you're absolutely right, and especially, I mean, I'm sure it's in every business, but in transportation, especially car hauling, I'm telling you, the expenses are crazy. And if you
Mm,
really don't know, what does it cost you to drive 1 mile? Break that
yep.
down. And that's where things start getting crazy.
Right.
I
Yep.
mean, the insurance right now is just nutso. I mean, I have no idea how people are doing it. And that's
Mm,
why, again, you come into this thing, and again, I'm speaking exclusively car hauling, the expense. And, we won't even talk about what happened to the bumper. That scratch wasn't there.
oh, right.
When you
Yeah, I
pick it
can't
up
imagine.
and you drop it off, and the dealer comes out and he says, "Whoa, what happened here?" I don't, well, somebody's got to fix that.
Mm,
Okay, $1,000 later
right.
for a
Just totally cut
scratch.
your entire profit or close to your half your profit out of it potentially. Yeah. That yeah, it's a bad place to be. You can't do that very often and stay in business.
No, and in car hauling, it's really unfortunate. It's so unpredictable what happens next. You never know.
Hmm.
And everything's going great. The sun's shining. It's a beautiful 72 with a nice cool breeze. You're having fun. Life is good. And the wheel runs off the trailer and flies across the highway,
Mm,
bounces into a windshield. People crash. I mean, it happens. It's nuts.
wow.
Stuff you
Yeah.
just like, whoa, where? So anyway, one
So
of the
much for
things
having
that
a
I,
great day.
yeah, one of the things I like to say is you go to the bowling alley and they put the bumper rails in there. Have you seen that?
Uh-huh. Oh
So
yeah.
I like to say I'm the bumper rails at the bowling alley for the car hauler guys. My job is to help them get to the pins, right? And so
Nice.
what happens in that is there's pitfalls, there's things to avoid. Who do you deal with? How do you deal with it? And building that business is really important. And it's
Hmm.
important, in my opinion, to start in your backyard. And where you live, everybody should know who you are and exactly what you do and where you go.
Hmm.
The more people that know that, the better the odds
Yep.
of you doing business with them.
Nope.
And
Very,
that's the
very good.
really, really unfortunate part is today I see this, my phone rings all the time. Hey, I want to be a car hauler. I see this, I'm like, okay, can you go talk to a car dealer? What? I got to talk to people? Car dealers are the most relational people you will ever meet in your life.
Mm,
Go to the dealership. These local dealers are heavily invested in local community. And I would dare anybody to prove me wrong. You can't.
nope, that's a great point.
Go to the basketball game, go to the baseball game, go to the whatever game, and I promise
Hmm.
you will find a sign of a local car dealer plastered somewhere.
Yep.
Right?
Well, go to the not-for-profit galas, and there's always somebody from the car dealership there. No, you're absolutely right because it's, it's their bread and butter. It's it's their pool where all their fish are. So no, that makes perfect sense. So you and I were talking before we started recording about all the books behind you. So it sounds like you're a pretty big fan of sharpening the saw. And you had mentioned a business book that you really, really like. So would you just real quick share what that book is and kind of a couple of key takeaways that you think people should have from it?
Sure. It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And I think my biggest takeaway, I'll just leave it with one really, is as you're building a business, you're small, you're fast, you're agile. And I saw this in my business. Hey, I use so and so to haul my cars. Okay, well, do they have them here tomorrow? No, nobody gets them here tomorrow. Let me try. Right. So having that ability and keeping it, see, so again, I built mine up to 20 trucks. So that's getting big, and that has the ability to make you move slow. But we, as a team, so my drivers, my office staff, I mean, you figure out ways to keep it going fast, right? And there's always something that is in your way, always something that's going to try to slow you down, whether that's rules, whether it's regulations, whether that's government, whatever it is. And trucking is very, very regulated, heavily regulated.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of fines involved, a lot of fees, a lot of audits, a lot of all kinds of stuff that I personally don't like. So anyway, learning how to be agile and stay agile, pivot fast. You're watching everything all the time and trying to get to a place where we don't have so many rules and so many processes and so many systems that we're losing drivers. I mean, that's another great point. My driver retention was off the charts. When I tell people like trucking, no, car haulers, yeah, like 98% retention. They didn't leave. How do you do that? Well, I'm really a psychiatrist.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think you got the culture of the company, like you said, the right systems in place and the right people, and that's a recipe for success. So, speaking of recipes for success, what would you say your business superpower is?
Listening. Just listen, be quiet. Maybe ask an occasional question. I know what I'm here for, but what are you doing? What do you need?
It's amazing how much you can learn. Yeah. What's the saying? God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. So that's fantastic.
Well, yeah, it is. I love it.
So just to kind of wrap things up here, and I think you've had a lot of great points, but if you could just pick one piece of advice for other business owners to share with them, what would it be?
Really know your numbers and stay lean. I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I follow a lot of the big car guys that, or consultants, whatever, they got some kind of a product or service to offer to car dealers. And if you watch them, they're watching the price of the used cars, the price of the new cars, their inventory, managing that inventory. And it's very important. And if that's your customer, you should be doing the same thing. And these guys have been saying for years that as I follow them, keep your stuff lean and keep it clean. And I just stole that. That was from Jason Rice at Lot Pop.
Nice.
You can find Jason, Jasen Rice at Lot Pop on LinkedIn. The guy's amazing. I mean, just absolutely. And that's his saying, keep it lean and clean.
Okay. I like it. Yep. Because there are a lot of companies out there that are multi-million dollars. And then when you look at the bottom line, they didn't make anything. And it's, they die from indigestion instead of starvation. So
Yeah.
Well, Ty, that was some fantastic advice and some great stories there and some great insights. So thanks so much for taking a little bit of time today to hang out with us and share your business superpower.
Absolutely, Eric. Nice to meet you. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome.